Everybody just hold on 1 second. Okay, sorry for the slight delay, everybody. I underestimated the amount of time it was going to take for me to be completely set up, but I had a few things to take care of real quick beforehand. I was kind of slacking today, so I hadn't actually done my first round of 30 push-ups yet, so I had to get those out of the way before actually hopping on here. So we'll give a little bit for the first batch of people to really show up, then we'll go through everything. And then, as always, twice as many people will show up like 40 minutes into it, and they'll just have to scroll back to the beginning. So while we give them a little bit to show up, I'll show the adjusted, updated CO2 graphs and some new ones that I made with all the data that's out now from the Statistical Review of World Energy. And since somebody asked last time where the data was coming from, the Statistical Review of World Energy is not like my thing. It's completely public. Anyone can look at it. And it should still be the first result on Google. Thankfully, it didn't trigger Google's stupid AI thing. You can download it here yourself. To convert, you'll have to frequently convert a lot of the numbers into like regular measurements that you're used to hearing about because they do frequently in this like to use really weird measurements that not even a lot of like super nerdy adjusts glasses to correct you science nerd types even use. Like a lot of the things they put in like petajoules instead of like billion cubic feet per day of natural gas and stuff like that. So you do have to frequently run some calculations, do a bit of math, and for like daily things, then divide by 365, obviously, because most of it's annual data. So they've made it a little bit more of a mathematical workout than it used to be. Back when it was published by BP, it was still like pretty straightforward. Unfortunately, that's not the case anymore. But anyways, so if you go under the stream, shut up. If you go under the stream or under any video from the last 2 years, go down to the bottom of the description. Under the PayPal and Patreon links, there's a free to access drive. There is no paywall to this, and there never will be. Uh, the point of me doing this, is partly because so many sites, news organizations, and everything are starting to put things behind paywalls. Like if you want, for example, any data further back than just a few years on TD Economics. This site has so much data, and it used to be free, but now look at this. There's the paywall. Got to sign up for the membership, which is not free. Hence the fact there's a pricing button for you to check out right there. And you probably already know, like Bloomberg, Economic Times, etc., are starting to put everything behind paywalls. Even BBC is like starting to do that. So this stuff will always be free. It just won't look as pretty as stuff that like official organizations will put out because all I have access to is like Microsoft Excel. But so you have all kinds of graphs here in this drive folder, such as these, for example, CO2 emissions graphs in gigatons per year. But there's all kinds of other data there as well. But these are, I'll switch these out tonight. Actually, we can switch some of them out while we're here and waiting for people to show up, I guess. So let's see. Switch out the old Africa one for the new Africa one. I did download it, didn't I? Did I not download it? I didn't download it, apparently. Okay, I'll have to download that one later. All right, let me check for ones I did actually download. Central America, I don't even think I had that one previously. Europe, CO2 emissions, okay. You can switch out that one for the new one. Go down to E. There you go. You got one switched out for the new one. But take a look at these while we're waiting for people to show up. So Central America, that's Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, Belize, and ESAL, the blasphemous name country that claims to be like super Christian, yet named its country the Savior, which is blasphemy to do to anything that's not actually Jesus. But sure thing, ESAL, sure thing. So Central America in total, their emissions are starting to plateau off, falling short of 100 megatons or 0.1 gigatons. Europe is overall long-term continuing to head down. You can see after plateauing around 5 gigatons continent-wide for a couple decades, they're down now to a bit above 3, around like 3.2. Global emissions, I talked about as some of the good news last time, are starting to level off and slow down drastically. So for, let's see, a couple of years ago, they went up from 39.5 up to 40.3, or up to 40.2. So that was plus 700 megatons per year. Then from 40.2 up to 40.7. So that was plus 500 megatons per year. And over the course of last year, 2025, they only climbed from 40.7 up to a flat 41 gigatons per year in total. So they're leveling out, and actually they might fall short of last year's emissions this year because of how much stuff has been disrupted because of the Iran war. And Epic Pen is busted, so let us fix that. But I was actually going to lead into that with some of the good news. China is keeping its electricity demand decently down. Long term, it might be stopping its growth, but this might heavily just be deliberate holdback because of everything that's going on. But over the course of, let's actually go back out here to the electricity graphs. Oh, I definitely need to update these. Most of these are from March, some of them are from May. So China fluctuates over the course of the year, highest in summer, lowest in winter, and they've continued climbing upwards over the course of time, as you can see, up to now averaging roughly between 1.1 and 1.2 terawatts of constant grid load. and now for over 2 years have not fallen below 1 terawatt at any given time nationwide. However, they seem to have plateaued out this year. Probably most of it is because of deliberate, intentional energy cuts, or was it encouraged conservation members across measures across the public and across government and industries as well as you can see their low end this year during late winter, February, March, was not higher than that of last year like it normally would be. And I have to update the graph because I haven't done that in a few months. But instead of like coming up here, their their present demand has only gotten up to as of the middle of summer, as of the end of June, beginning of July, it had only gotten up to like around here. So whereas last summer it got up to one point, I think it was 1.25 exactly. It's only gotten up to about a flat 1.2 this summer, despite them having some excessive heat. So that's some good news out of China. Some of the other graphs to look over while we wait for people. How many people are actually here so far? 9. All right, actually, that's good enough to start, I guess. Okay, so things have been mostly quiet here. The US and Iran have not struck each other in, I think, 10 days now. However, last night or yesterday, Iran did strike 2 additional vessels, not oil tankers this time, I believe. They were just regular, like, container ships that were going through the Strait of Hormuz and struck the engines and disabled them. But there was no response to that from anybody. So the actual US and Iran plus Gulf partners portion of this is mostly quiet for the time being, it seems. And supposedly there actually are negotiations again, this time being centered in Oman. And you guys remember from last week on Thursday, Trump had announced a new Gaza peace deal and said totally 100% legit for reals that Hamas agreed to disband, give up all of its weapons, and the IDF agreed to withdraw from Gaza, and Israel would not occupy it anymore or annex it. Then 24 hours after that, they immediately started bombing it again, and they've been doing such ever since. And then, so that's pretty bad. But up here, thankfully, in Lebanon, Israel, you remember, had pulled back down initially down to about here as part of the initial agreement with the Lebanese government, and then pulled back to here, even further back, and the actual Lebanese army moved into place and will be the ones fighting Hezbollah as per the agreement. There was a brief conflict here, an actual battle between the IDF and the Lebanese army. Thankfully, that was a one off incident. And it looked okay up until on a Tuesday, like I said. And this is not exactly where the line is. This is a really rough drawing. But on Tuesday, all of a sudden, the IDF surged past the line and started pushing north again. And I said, we'd have to wait and see if this is like the full thing or if this is just like a really one specific incident. Thankfully, in good news, it turned out to be one specific incident. There was like one particular town slash really small city that was technically past the agreed line that they wanted to seize. Of course, that could then turn into multiple small cities slash towns that they then need to seize for quote unquote security reasons. But for the time being, it's just the one for now. However, in Yemen, things are not quiet. So the Houthis mainly control like really roughly something like this directly. And then there's like another kind of split around like here, and then everything around there is like kind of semi-ambiguous, but uh, part of a third. There's like three actual factions in Yemen, not just two. But everybody kind of lives over here in the western portion, so the eastern factions, it kind of doesn't have as much power, and the Houthis and the primary recognized government of Yemen are the only two that most people consider matter. Uh, and they're both like fighting each other. Like neither of them are really fighting this one over here because they're both too concerned with each other, and also because this one's not really that much of a concern. But the Houthis, as of yesterday, have begun a ground campaign, and they are now pushing against and seizing towns and small little cities and valleys and things from the officially recognized Yemeni government. So uh, that is that is happening. We don't really. It's not like it's not like Ukraine or Iran. It's not like a million people with their phones out filming every single piece of the action. So there's not a lot out of there. That there were like a few pictures occasionally of things of some gunfire or videos of some gunfire and some smoky aftermath shots after people shot like some jeeps with RPGs and stuff. But that's about it. It's kind of also, kind of like how over here in Sudan, where there's like a quarter of a million people plus, or actually, sorry, it was more like 400,000 in a major like relocation settlement right now, currently being massacred at this very moment. They're not really filming themselves doing that for obvious reasons. We just like the last one last year, we just get to see the satellite imagery aftermath, where we can get high-res satellite images of like piles of hundreds to thousands of bodies that are burning and on fire, and see like the smoke trails from the burning mounds of bodies on satellite, like drifting for miles, and then obviously see midway through them being dug and filled, like the hundred hundreds of meters by hundreds of meters, giant pit mass graves with charred bodies and remains being thrown in them. That's the only like direct stuff we see out of that. In Sudan's case, particularly because filming yourself doing the quiet part out loud is typically not advisable for people who want to get away with doing the quiet part out loud. But uh, there's not there's similarly not a lot of like footage coming out of the combat in Yemen, but that full-blown clash slash ground offensive, Houthis versus Yemeni government, is now underway. It's been going on for the last 24 hours or so. So we'll wait a bit, see what results come from that. And supposedly, no one's really like buying into this one. because everyone's kind of doubting any of these three would like legitimately back each other if blows came to blows. But supposedly, there is a new Baldur's Gate 1 Dark Alliance triangle. If anyone remembers the triangle map from that game, of Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan have supposedly formed. Everyone's jokingly calling it Muslim NATO, even though Turkey's pretty secular and it's a large portion of the population is kind of like quote unquote even self-identified as culturally Muslim, in the same way that a lot of people still claim that like the U.S. is a Christian country or whatever. But those three are now supposedly in a defensive pact alliance, but it's pretty questionable to what extent they would actually abide by it. But it's a thing that now exists. Did we get anybody? Uh, Sticking with nine mostly. If anybody just showed up recently, you can scroll back, long timeline. Looks like started 15 minutes ago, and then it was CO2 data and some China electricity demand stuff for a little bit before we actually started talking about the things in the title. Some good news while we're still in the Middle East. Syria here is no longer dependent on food imports. So Syria, unlike its neighbors, actually does, once you especially get like over here and up here, I mean, you can kind of see it like on the greening portions of the map, actually can grow food. And it, after not even 2 years after the end of everything, after the fall of Assad, they've actually managed to restore enough wheat production to hit their minimum domestic requirement. They still will be importing stuff for quite a bit, because they're not like handing out rations. They do have shops where there's like a few more than one loaf on the shelf. It's just not like American shops, obviously, where there's 15 shelves and like 80 bajillion units of each individual brand of bread on each shelf, and they're stacked 5 loaves deep. Uh, it's a more like what you would more expect in like a small town in Europe or something, I guess. But they are actually now growing enough wheat again to where it would it is enough to meet their minimum national calorie threshold, which they have not done for quite some time. Oh, actually, sorry, double. While we're here, the Euphrates River, couldn't get exact info on the Tigris River, but the Euphrates River has actually gotten some decent restoration from rainfall over the last year or so, starting in last fall, last autumn. And so reservoirs in Iraq, at least, which Iraq was using to supplement the lack of water from low river flow, had, if you remember, gotten all the way down to only 6% full nationwide. They are now back up to around 25% full. And the Euphrates itself, I believe it was down around in terms of like river volume, it was down around like roughly 25% of what had been its historical volume. However, as of now, it's actually come back up to about 40% of its historical volume. So a 60 to 70% water volume restoration over the course of like a single year. That's astounding. Hopefully, won't be temporary, but we'll have to wait and see whether that ends up lasting or not. Then over here, let's see. Oh yes, Russia issued a new publicity stunt denial of all the strikes and ships that Ukraine has hit across the Azov Sea and Black Sea, and the various strikes and damage to the actual oil export terminal at Novorossiysk, insisting in its public statement yesterday that there is no such damage. Everything is going uh, everything is operational at higher than normal rates. And I can't draw the actual like lol face meme or the uh, incredulously confused black guy meme. So Russia literally said that it is going so well that they're going to be increasing their exports through that terminal. So we're getting new levels of Slavic Baghdad Bob. Meanwhile, let's see, Tula. There we go. Another one of major the major ground freight logistics hub warehouses was hit. This time in Tula, which is right there. Let's make sure we keep adjusting. All right, so both the Moscow ones were hit and are gone. Both the St. Petersburg ones were hit and are gone. The one in Tula is gone. The one in Ryazan is gone. The one in what was it? Not was it the one? No, not the Volgograd one, or was it? No, yeah, I think the Volgograd one was hit, and then the one in Penza and the one in Samara. Oops, no, Samara's over here. Uh, the one, the one in Perm, the one in Vladimir, and what was the other one in the north here? Not Novgorod. Uh, Tver, I think. I think one in Tver, and then Krasnodar, and I'm forgetting about one. The one in Yekaterinburg was also hit successfully this time. That one ended up not burning down completely. This is the one in Tula. This is the aftermath of what it looks like now, i.e., it doesn't look like anything anymore because it's gone. Yeah, the one in Yekaterinburg, the actually uh, the firefighting in Yekaterinburg is must be the best in Russia because it was like actually competent. And somehow, despite how quickly these fires have spread throughout the warehouses every time, the firefighting, the whole firefighting, not industry, what's the word I'm looking for? The collective firefighting brigades, I'll just refer to it as for Yekaterinburg and the surrounding region, actually managed to get that under control really fast. Whereas the responses to the other ones were very unimpressive. Uh, some IDF bombing of random cities across Lebanon. They've not returned to directly bombing Beirut yet. Yeah, here's like some of the only footage we've gotten out of the Houthi Yemen stuff. I don't have the desktop thing on, but you can hear gunfire and you can see like smoking remains of stuff after they RPG'd a few things. Uh, Russia bombed a bunch of apartment buildings again because what else are you going to do? This is the refinery. Uh, as you can see, it is fully and totally consumed in Yaroslavl. Yaroslavl is up here. It's one of the various middle of nowhere places. It's Kostroma, Ivonovo, Yaroslavl. There we go. That's like a medieval monster name. Come on, Russia. So Yaroslavl. Uh, I don't know if it was only 3 units, but 3 units of the refinery, and they in Russia at least they most of the non-minor or non quote unquote micro refineries tend to be 3 or 4 unit refineries, with a few select ones like the massive Omsk refinery being like a 6 unit refinery, of which 4 were heavily damaged and taken offline during that drone assault. I don't know if Yaroslavl is 3 or 4, but 3 distinct refinery units were clearly up and going and then gone in the aftermath. So it might be completely gone, or there might still be one operational unit. But there goes another one. Cue the Wabam DJ Khaled meme insert. Let's see. Yeah, it's more stuff from the Yaroslavl refinery with 3 distinct units going. Oh, is that that the middle smoke thing there looks a bit too thin and gray to be like a solid one. So I don't know if it's 4 units and that was like unit number 4. The other 3 are like solid. That one might just be some like tertiary stuff in the background, like some fuel containers or something. But yeah, there you go. Bye bye, Yaroslavl. Oh yeah, I forgot. Putin must have upped the bribe to Kim Jong Un, as North Korea, instead of infantry meat wave units, has loaned Russia some of its ballistic missiles and some of its missile units, like its personnel. So, in theory, last time Putin offered Kim Jong Un like several years of free fuel and free grain, free food imports. Whatever he offered this time is uncertain, as Russia currently is not able to meet its own entire domestic fuel supply because of the amount of refining capacity that's down and pipeline transport capacity that's also down. So maybe I guess he extended the free grain, free wheat shipments like into a forever deal is like probably the first guess I would go for. Because if you're relying on North Korea for your weapons, then your promise to them obviously can't be weapons because you're relying on them for weapons. There's the Syria wheat news. Oh, yeah, forgot about that one. The Houthis did attack another Saudi vessel that tried running through to the Gulf of Aden. Just commercial vessel. You're not identifying. Was it a okay? It must have just been like a regular cargo ship or like a container vessel. Because if it was an oil tanker and it actually sank burning, that would have caused a lot more things that would be all over the news by this point. So, presumably, it was just a regular cargo vessel. Here's some more stuff from the route, the land routes of Russia trying to constantly rush supplies of things to Crimea, with more trucker dudes signing up for the suicide run and driving past their future fate staring at them in the face here. Yekaterinburg, remains of the Tula warehouse. Uh, oh yeah, this was really weird. So way over in Kamchatka, which those who don't know is way over here, this peninsula, that's where Russia has one of its submarine bases. Most of them are not really operating at sea anymore, but they're still there. And they're starting to put anti-drone nets over these ones. So just put this in your head for the moment. They are going through these measures to protect their assets over there, but they are not putting these things or any such attempted things on their assets over here that are, or really anything over here, that are actually within striking range. Now, granted, Ukraine has proven the stratospheric balloon carrying drone into the jet stream and then dropping at certain points to go attack a given target far away. So maybe it's particularly just there's like a really smart general or admiral in charge of that naval base over there who sees and understands that that is actually a legitimate risk to a certain extent and is like going out of his way to try to protect things. But there was just a little oddity that popped up, and also a complete lack of like real maritime defense at all. So I'm not playing the music because that's copyright. But so one of the Ukrainian sea drones just pulled up to Yalta, and they were like just zipping around and dancing and bobbing to some music. And they just went back and forth for an extended period of time. And no little like Russian speedboats with whatever their version of like the Browning machine gun is mounted on them. Like nothing came out to try to shoot it. No one no one seemed to like care. And so after a while, with no intervention from any kind of visible defense force, it was just like, okay, I I guess you guys don't mind if I go blow something up. And so it went over to some of the uh, docks at the city and started blowing up some of the docks and piers. This still no info on the cause, but you are using AI, which means you get blocked immediately. Let's see, but the train station apparently in Bryansk, or I guess not the train station, but part of it or part of the rail yard, I don't know, like just exploded for unknown reasons. Still waiting for a specific, for like specific details to be given on that. See, did we pull anybody else in? No. Okay. Anybody else alive at least? If you showed up in the last few minutes, scroll back on timeline. Started around like 35 minutes ago. I don't know what's up with that sudden dip. I'm assuming my internet must have crashed temporarily. I didn't get a notice about it though. That still says my bit rate's okay. Meanwhile, we continue hurtling towards the Colorado River abyss. So the Colorado River running something like that, really roughly. Then you have the big reservoirs. You have Lake Mead, you have Lake Powell, and then you have a smaller one, Flaming Gorge up here. So Lake Mead is now down below 27% water volume, starting the year off at 33. Lake that's Lake Mead. Lake Powell is down to 22 after starting the year off at 27. Flaming Gorge is down to 70 after starting the year off at like 81 or 82. And situation continues spiraling downwards. Lake Mead. Lake Mead is now, as of today, below its all-time record low water level in terms of water level and also water volume. Obviously, let's see if this actually loads. Make sure it's not lagging. Okay, it's not lagging. You're just being slow. Oh, I still have a YouTube tab open and that tab. Let's close those. Not going to help with anything. Are we going to load? Are we going to load? Okay, let's try going from a blank slate. How about that? Take us to the Lake Mead water level page. There's another one I can go to. It's just this one's one of the better presented ones. All right, we'll give that a few minutes. But while we wait to see if that ever loads up, oh, here we go. Yep, down to 1040.53. That's in elevation feet, or the height of the water surface above sea level. The lowest it got before was in 2022 when it got down to around 1040.60. 0.71 was the lowest it got before. So it is now below the lowest point ever since it was first filled. And it continues to go down despite the everyone's been debating in the comments about how it's not actually the super El Nino yet, so it doesn't count, and it's actually going to show up in fall, and it's totally going to save the Colorado River, and there's going to be a million bajillion gallons of rain. So I'll give it to you guys for the moment. We'll say uh, it was just random, but there were several large waves of rain that fell roughly around the lower Colorado River region and around Lake Mead that did end up causing that little hold off that you see right there for a little bit before it then resumed going down. So it continues on its way down, as does Lake Powell. Let's see, let's get Lake Powell up. You're still in the Utah page. And while we give you time to load, I guess we'll do this. So, Colorado River runs down here along the Arizona-California border. Then it empties into the Gulf of California there. So, here along the border, there's a pipeline network that sucks water out of the Colorado River and pipes it over here to Los Angeles for Los Angeles to use. There's also another aqueduct system that pumps it over to Phoenix and also partially pumps it to Tucson for those two to use. And said river water is also used along that border region for agriculture as well, which includes cotton and alfalfa, which is used for animal feed, a decent chunk of which gets sold to China, who then sells it to Saudi Arabia, the end consumer. Saudi Arabia likes to have a lot of livestock, but doesn't grow their animal feed for that livestock in their desert because they know that they're in a desert. So they outsourced their agriculture to another desert. in this case, our desert, and we just willingly signed up for it because hypercapitalism, grab whatever dollar is offered to you. And so that is a arrangement that currently exists. So for Phoenix, about 40% of its water is sucked in from the Colorado River. Los Angeles, it's like not as much as 40%, but I think it's like 30. So in the absence of that, Los Angeles will have to ask for more water to be diverted from northern and central or interior California and sent down to them via the California aqueduct system, which the rest of California is not really going to readily agree with. So then that's going to be an interesting issue. Maybe Los Angeles will actually have to see real legitimate water use restrictions along with basically all of Arizona for what parts of Arizona don't already. And I'm not talking about convenience restrictions like the uh, you can't have real estate lawns that you have to water on your property that you don't even have a family in. You're just a boomer mentality person who bought a house in Las Vegas or Phoenix because you know the value is going up, and you bought it at 200,000 because you want to sell it for 5 million in a couple of decades. Uh, the like there are restrictions like that have been put in place in some desert cities, like you can't grow lawns, and you can only wash your car once a week. We're going to be coming to an actual point for the general Southwest region and decent potential for Los Angeles as well, where you're going to get things like actual water restrictions in lieu of like the water the water utility company is going to have an automated system that if you go past a certain amount per household or per apartment or something, some like threshold per day, like 150 gallons or whatever, uh, it's just going to automatically cut your water off until like midnight or something, until the calendar day rolls over. Something in line with that is inevitably coming to the whole region. Forewarning to anybody who like does live here that is coming. You're not escaping that. This region was never meant to have this many people or this much agriculture in a desert or this much water intensive industry constantly getting built in Phoenix, like semiconductor production plants, which every 100 computer processors that are made requires 100 tons of water, for those who didn't know about that part. So then for Los Angeles, I don't know, maybe someone's going to bring up the whole desalination idea again, which is slightly more viable than it was before, but still not really. So previously, for desalination, under the steam flashing and then general filtration plants, it was about 1 gigawatt of power required for every 2.7 million people's worth of water. And that's general people and regular businesses. That's not including industrial or agriculture use, because every area will have different amounts of that per amount of people in that area. So again, this is just regarding human household and regular business consumption, like the bathrooms at Walmart or whatever. The new, better models now that use the multi-reverse osmosis filter stuff, they are more efficient. They're like 1 gigawatt required per between 3.5 and 4 million people's worth. And again, just talking about personal consumption, because the water's not moving passively. A number of the filters have to be like electrically charged. to have their effects. And also like I said, the water has to be pumped physically. It has to be forced to go through the filters, and it also has to be sucked out of the ocean to begin with. And then you have to deal with the leftover salt and everything. So Los Angeles is roughly 20 million people in that valley area, so that would be, we'll assume a rough 6 to 7 Zoomers and Gen Alpha rejoice, 6 to 7 gigawatts if you were to suddenly like run the whole city on desalination, excluding everything else like the local industrial water demand. But so that's the other option, I guess, apart from asking the rest of California to siphon you off more water, which they don't want to do because that's kind of necessary for the agriculture in Central California, which is a place where agriculture actually could exist. Because unlike Arizona, it's not a desert, it's a nice fertile valley. And that is where a lot of actual food gets grown, like fruits and vegetables and stuff. Although it would be nice if you guys would ditch the almonds. That's a bit obnoxious and water intensive. Please ditch the almonds and just do like actual regular fruits and vegetables and everything. I need my spinach to come from somewhere. That's part of the Max Ogier secret for being almost 33, but still apparently having people think I look so young that they assume I'm either like 21 or some people have actually asked which high school I go to. The secret to being immortal is eating a fistful of spinach and blueberries every day and cranking out 100 push-ups. Do that, and you'll be immortal and invincible for whatever term you'd like to apply to it. But that situation is continuing to downward spiral. Yep, Lake Powell still on its way down. It's about to pass its 2022 all-time low, and this coming year, maybe even later this year, who knows? They're probably going to have to shut down power generation at the dam, which will cut off about half a gigawatt of power generation, or is it 1 gigawatt? I'm not sure. It's at least half a gigawatt. So that won't be too bad, but that will mean the general area, that general region, will become more reliant on just general grid flow imports. But at this pace, we are probably looking at maybe, I don't know, 2029 if we're really lucky, if God's really merciful on Las Vegas. We're looking at maybe 2029. Hoover Dam having to shut down. That would, as I've explained before, be a loss of 2.5 gigawatts of constant power generation that Las Vegas needs, as that's base load. That's like that. Whereas like the floor is here, that's a base load. And then on top of that, whereas like say the demand fluctuates like this throughout the day, and then depending on different times of year, it gets higher, etc. And you'll have like the natural gas fired power plants around Las Vegas that will fluctuate uh, to make sure everything is met on top of the base load. And then sometimes they get really close to not being able to cut it, especially in summer. So if you take away that base load in a couple of years, move that dotted line down by 2.5 gigawatts, and we're not going to have your Las Vegas ain't going to have wiggle room there. It's going to have no actual margin. And so you're going to face some tough city decisions and potentially face some really horrendous incidents of mass power outages during the summer and mass amounts of heat death. not the heat death of the universe, but people dying from heat exhaustion, aka, in this case, me abbreviating it as heat death. So that whole scenario is continuing to deteriorate. And let me think. I think there were a few other things. Oh, yeah. Wait, let me check you guys first. Nobody else is alive. So for anyone just joined in, as I say, you can scroll back on the timeline. Looks like we started about 50 minutes ago. You can probably skip a few more minutes of that because I was waiting for people to show up initially. So Spain is actually doing biofuel, legitimate biofuel, not like U.S. style biofuel, so not corn ethanol. Spain is now expanding dozens of individual stations across the country that will be offering Nexa 95, which is a biogasoline formulation made from one of the better options for it, which is crop waste. So, as crops are harvested, for example, corn stalks or the stems of wheat, the wheat stems, when things get sent into like the plant or the mills and they get put through all the machines and everything, and obviously just the parts that we're going to eat get separated out. Then the other stuff sometimes gets burned, sometimes it gets sent to like be part of like fermentation for booze or whatever, or sometimes it gets used for like compost or whatever. However, it can, corn stalks and wheat stems, it can instead be run through a special process in a special set of chemical vats with a certain species of bacteria that will consume it in a specific way in which the waste products they produce are the exact same molecules that compose the regular gasoline that we normally refine out of petroleum. Now, it's not for this particular method. It's not as high yield as like Brazilian sugarcane ethanol fuel, which typically averages 8 plus and has a full range of between 6 and 11 in terms of how much energy is yielded out of every unit of energy put into the process. For corn ethanol, the U.S. fuel of choice, for its substitution stuff, it's like 1.2 to 1, aka it's not really worth doing anything, but we're 2.5 generations into a sunk cost fallacy with that now. But this biogasoline method is roughly a 5 to 1 yield. So not as good as the sugarcane ethanol, but that is still an actual decent positive yield. As the stuff has to be transported like to the facility, and also an amount of electricity obviously has to be used, not all of which is going to be from renewable sources yet, at least. As Spain, I think, is still 40% dependent on fossil fuels. We can check. Actually, yeah, let's check. Let's check the Google Drive to self-plug myself as always. Oh, we can go right here. Wait, shut up. Shut up, AI advertisement. Burn. Should all burn down, along with everyone who supports you. Let's see. Electricity data. Generation source charts. And these are all updated. These are as of this year. Spain. What are you guys sitting at? Let's see. Regular solar, solar thermal, 1.5. Okay, so 22 for all kinds of solar. Left, so 33.5, including that. That's 34, 54 plus nuclear, so that's 73. Okay, no, I was wrong actually. You guys are only still reliant on fossil fuels for electricity generation for roughly 27%. But that mix is obviously still a part of it, which is part of what makes it only like say a five, uh, or sorry, oh no, sorry, the fossil fuel mix is part of what makes it not a total like net zero emissions thing. The fact that electricity itself has to be used to somewhat keep the chemical vat warm, as in keep it at about 100, I think 110 degrees Fahrenheit or about 45 degrees Celsius. Uh, so not like boiling temperatures, but it does need a bit of a constant heat element added to it. The fact that there's still some fossil fuel electricity mix and some involved in transportation of stuff is what makes it not a complete like net zero thing. But uh, burning burning this biogasoline is 70% less, so it's only about 30% the net CO2 emissions that just burning regular gasoline from crude oil would be. And so this is just beginning, but the facility that is being completed this year will be producing and shipping 4,000 barrels per day, which in Spain's case is a bigger percentage than it would be for us. Still a bit small. It'll take a little while, but consumption by product. And remember, you can get to these graphs too. This is all free for anyone to access all the time. Oh, did I not upload these? Did I not upload these? I thought I. Right, blah, 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 consumption by product. I did I make the new ones and just never uploaded them? I thought I had, and I just moved the old ones. It's like an older thing. Okay, I have no idea how I zoned out on that one. But let's see. Gasoline consumption in Spain is only about 140,000 barrels a day. So 4,000 of that as is about to be replaced with biogasoline. So it's about 3%. And as long as it continues selling, which the like trial like sales that they run of it have constantly sold. So as long as it does keep selling, the company will be incentivized to further the production of it. And there is enough of the like crop waste from the crop and grain processing industry in Spain to actually that there is enough to where they could produce more than that particular number of biogasoline. Actually, I think they said they have if all of the crop waste from the crop harvesting waste end products that are viable, if it were all put into this process, I think from Spain's agriculture industry in particular, it would be enough to produce like 180,000 barrels a day. So Spain actually could go full biogasoline by itself, no like imports of anything required. But they are already just starting to do that. Now, I think that's roughly everything. yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I'll be looking around. I'll be looking around for stuff and adding things to like the list for next time and everything. Oh, wait, yeah, sorry, forgot. Brazil uh, completed its full triple field expansion that it was working on. So oil supply outside of the disrupted Persian Gulf, which is again still not really flowing, other than the pipeline bypasses, which Saudi Arabia's has now gotten more expensive since their ships have to sail out through the Suez Canal and go around Africa, or go out here and like through the Panama Canal to reach Asia, since they're not allowed to go past Yemen. But outside of Persian Gulf oil supply continues expanding as Brazil jumped even higher after jumping from 4.1 up to 4.35 this year so far. They have pushed even further, now up to 4.48 million barrels per day. And the floating unit to operate the fourth field offshore of Guyana will be arriving in a couple weeks, and then it will take a couple weeks to hook it up to all the flexible pipeline tie-ins. So that looks has us looking at like a slightly ahead of schedule, possibly late September, maybe early October activation instead of like end of the year, which was the initial expectation. But that will see them bump up from just under 900 now to somewhere between 1.13 and 1.15 million, from which they will resume mildly declining as their first field is now in decline because it activated 7 years ago. And their second field, which activated in 2022, is just starting to tip into a gradual decline now. But even as their earlier fields slowly begin declining over the coming years, everything stacked for Guyana is still going to see them end up going up and over too. Oh, yeah. And also, sorry, I forgot other stuff. So, Strait of Hormuz still blocked. And sorry, with exception, Iran's letting out like one Iraqi oil tanker like every other day, so roughly like a million barrels per day. And and then there's the 2 million that's getting out of the UAE, and the roughly 5 million that's able to get out of Saudi Arabia, of which only 3 million initially, because of how tight the scheduling is, could be fit through the Suez Canal. But now the rest of it is able to as well, because as we expected, Saudi Arabia kind of just bought their way into some extra shipping slots and paid other countries or companies enough money to for them to go around Africa instead of instead of using the Suez, so that Saudi oil tankers can have their extra transit slots on the schedule for the Suez Canal. But still, decent amount of oil down and offline. And meanwhile, the only one we have constant numbers for, the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve, was at 430 million barrels sitting in storage, waiting to be used for actual emergencies, not for price suppression for political gains. Continued being drawn down. Rate of drawdown has slowed a little bit, but still going. And as of the end of last week, because the data releases each Wednesday and it pertains to the data as of the previous Friday, it was down to 303, which means now, as of today, the data for which will be released this coming Wednesday, But as of today, obviously, since it's been drawing down now, instead of 7 to 8 million barrels per week, it's been drawing down at about 4 to 5 million barrels per week. That means that it's either at 298 or 299, so it is now below 300 million barrels per day. Congratulations. Just keep suppressing that price. And don't worry, the oil market loves it and continues to ignore the actual Persian Gulf reality because oil's still there sitting in the 70s. Even though uh, China's oil demand kind of came back swinging, although they're probably going to try to suppress themselves again as much as they can. But they also have a limit to how much of their own strategic petroleum reserve they're going to want to draw down. That's probably going to be where I'll end it then. We've been going for over an hour. So, unless there's anything else or any super chats or something show up, then I'll shut down in at 1:18, I guess. Let me chug some water. And sorry to the spike of people that look like they're just showing up now. You came in right at the end. So scroll back along the timeline. It's always going to stay publicly visible. It's not, the streams aren't, uh, like, they don't go into unlisted or hidden afterwards, like a lot of YouTube streamers do for some reason. I didn't on Wednesday because I just end up not feeling like it, but tomorrow I'll be on Twitch over here. Channel is just Maxogear, like it is everywhere. We're doing Dark Souls 2 tomorrow. Which is my favorite, which is heretical to most Souls players apparently, but oh well, I'll just go get lynched, I guess. But I do like the second one the best. All right, thank you guys for showing up, and I will see everyone.